My girlfriend said, if anyone asks, you were with me all night. I replied, I'm telling the truth. She thought I would cover for her like always. By morning I was single. By the weekend her friends were calling me a traitor, and a month later her lawyer wasn't smiling anymore. Original post: I'm Grant, 34M, and my ex is Aubrey, 31F. We were together just under 3 years, and for the last 9 months she had basically been living in my condo in Denver. The mortgage was mine. The lock code was mine. Her official address was still her cousin's apartment, but most nights she was at my place. Aubrey lied in polished little ways, nothing dramatic at first. She'd tell friends she was 5 minutes away while she was still doing her makeup. She'd tell her boss traffic was awful when she had overslept. She'd tell her mother she was sick when she just didn't want to go somewhere. Every time I called it out, she'd laugh and say, everybody edits. It's not lying if nobody gets hurt. That line aged badly. The night everything ended was my mother's 60th birthday dinner. Small dinner. Steakhouse in Cherry Creek. Family, cake, the usual. Aubrey promised all week she'd be there. At 5:42 she texted and said her boss had trapped her at a last-minute client dinner downtown. I believed her. Around 1040, while we were finishing dessert, Jonah texted me a photo from a rooftop bar in Rhino. Aubrey was in it with her ex, Trevor, smiling like she hadn't bailed on my family an hour earlier. His hand was on her back, not subtle. I didn't call her, didn't leave dinner, didn't make a scene. I finished the night, drove home, and waited. She walked in at 114 carrying her heels, smelling like tequila and perfume. The second she saw me awake on the couch, she knew. I held up my phone. The photo was still on the screen. She sat down and said, "It's not what it looks like." Before I could answer, her phone lit up with a text from her sister Paige. I only caught the preview, but that was enough. "Mom thinks you stayed with Grant. Call me." Aubrey grabbed the phone, then looked at me and said the line that ended us. "If anyone asks, you were with me all night. No apology, no explanation, just instructions." I said, "You skipped my mother's birthday dinner to go drink with Trevor, and now you want me to lie for you." She said, "Lower your voice. Paige already told my mom I was probably with you. Just back me up. I'll fix everything tomorrow." I asked, "Were you with Trevor all night?" She crossed her arms and said, "That's not the point." That was my answer. I told her I'm telling the truth. Her face changed instantly, panic first, then anger. "Are you really going to do this to me?" I said, "No, I'm finally not doing this for you." Then the script started. I was overreacting. It was closure. Nothing happened. Why was I making this ugly? I pulled out 2 suitcases and started packing enough for a weekend. Clothes, makeup bag, chargers, laptop. I told her she could pick up the rest on Saturday, and if she didn't, I'd box it and put it in storage. She kept saying, "You'd really end us over one mistake." I kept saying, "No, I'm ending this over the lie you wanted me to become part of." At 148, she called her friend Sloane to pick her up. While we waited, she tried one last softer tone. "If you tell the truth, you're going to make me look terrible." I said, "Aubrey, I'm not making you look like anything." Sloane arrived around 210, already defensive, like she'd gotten a very flattering version on the drive over. Aubrey grabbed her bag and said, "I hope being honest feels worth it." I said, "It already does." The second the door shut, the text started, "Please don't answer Paige. I'm begging you. Just say I came over after work. You know my family will never let this go." I replied one time, "If anyone asks me, I'm telling the truth." The next morning my mother called and asked why Paige had texted her after midnight asking if Aubrey ever made it to my place. So I told her, straight, "Aubrey skipped dinner. She was out with Trevor. She asked me to lie. We broke up." Mom was quiet for a second, then said I liked her less than I pretended to. By noon, Aubrey knew I'd told the truth because her texts turned vicious. "You humiliated me. You wanted an out. Hope your mother's happy. You never protected me." Protected her from what? Consequences. Update 1: the first week after the breakup was chaos. Aubrey never came for the rest of her things. Instead, Sloane texted that I was being rigid and cruel. Blake, Aubrey's older brother, sent me a LinkedIn message saying real men handle problems privately and don't run to family. Which was funny, because all I'd done was answer my mother honestly when she asked a direct question. I boxed Aubrey's remaining stuff on Monday night. 7 medium boxes, 2 garment bags, 1 ugly faux marble lamp she insisted made my living room look curated. I rented a climate-controlled storage unit for $96, bought a lock for $38, and sent her the unit number and access code with a simple message: "Your belongings will be available for pickup for 30 days. After that, the unit is your responsibility." She called immediately from an unknown number. I let it ring out, then she texted, "Storage, are you insane?" I replied, "You missed the pickup window, that should have ended it." It didn't. She started posting vague stories online about betrayal and men who use truth as a weapon when they just want an excuse to leave. Carter, a mutual friend, screenshotted one and sent it to me with, "She's definitely talking about you." Then Paige reached out, not angry, just one text. "Did she really ask you to lie? I sent the screenshot. If anyone asks, you were with me all night." Paige replied, "That's all I needed. Sorry." Then, about an hour later, Aubrey's mother called me. I almost didn't answer, but I did. She sounded tired, not dramatic. She asked if there was any version of this where Aubrey had been telling the truth. I said no. I didn't editorialize. I just told her what happened. She let out this long breath and said she keeps confusing panic with permission. That might have been the first honest thing anyone in her family had said about her in years. That told me Aubrey was already running multiple versions of the story. 2 days later, my condo camera sent me an alert while I was still at work. Aubrey was outside my door trying the old code. Then she knocked. Then she sat on the hallway floor and called me 6 times in 8 minutes. When I got home, she was gone, but she'd left an envelope under the doormat. Inside was a photo strip from a wedding we'd gone to in the spring. On the back she'd written, "Tell the whole truth then." I didn't even know what that meant. I called the building office, deactivated the garage pass, and changed the entry code that night. Cost me $185. Worth it. The next evening she showed up at my boxing gym standing beside my truck like she owned part of the parking lot. I walked up and said, "You need to stop showing up places." She said, "I just want one honest conversation." I told her we already had one. "You just didn't like the outcome." She tried crying. Said Trevor was closure, not cheating. Said she only lied because she panicked. Said everybody lies when they feel cornered. Then she hit me with, "You chose being technically right over loving me." I said no. I chose not becoming someone I can't respect. Then she asked, "Did you tell Lee?" Lee was a woman from my office, not a girlfriend, not even close. Aubrey had met her once at a holiday party and apparently decided she mattered forever. I said, "There is no Lee situation." Aubrey looked at me like I had confirmed it anyway. That was when I understood the real problem. She didn't live in facts. She lived in whatever version helped her survive the moment. I drove home and started a folder: screenshots, camera clips, call logs. Storage receipt. Everything. Because by then this wasn't heartbreak, it was paperwork. Update 2: about 2.5 weeks after the breakup, Aubrey got creative. At 7:30 on a Tuesday morning, I got a voicemail from a woman claiming she was calling from a clinic because Aubrey had listed me as her emergency contact, and there was an urgent matter. No clinic name, no doctor name, just urgency. My stomach dropped anyway. I called the number back and got a generic recording. Then I searched the number. Nothing. Then I called Paige. Before I could finish, she said, "If this is about some pregnancy thing, it's fake." She sent me the same panic text last night. That was the moment my sympathy finally died. Later that day, Aubrey showed up in my office lobby holding a paper coffee tray, acting like we were in a rough patch instead of fully broken up. Reception called upstairs and said, "There's a woman here who says she's your girlfriend and wants to surprise you." I said, "Ex-girlfriend. Please ask her to leave." She left the coffee, wrote my name on the cup with a heart over the A. I took a photo and threw it away. That Friday, Carter texted again. Aubrey was telling people I'd kicked her out because she told the truth about meeting Trevor and I couldn't handle honesty. She had somehow turned asking me to lie into a story where she was the only honest person involved. A few days later, I went on a first date with Lee. Yes, that Lee. Carter's girlfriend set it up after hearing the whole mess and deciding I needed one normal evening with a normal adult. Lee was a physical therapist, funny, calm, and very obviously not interested in drama. Dinner was easy. We walked out talking about bad apartment art and whether Denver had more breweries than dogs. Then Aubrey appeared. I still don't know if she followed me or if somebody told her where I'd be. She looked at Lee, then at me, and said, "So this is why you were in such a hurry to tell your truth." I said, "You need to leave, Aubrey." She ignored me and asked Lee, "Did he tell you he threw me out in the middle of the night because I admitted one difficult truth?" Lee said, "I think this isn't my conversation." Aubrey laughed and said, "Oh, it will be when he does it to you." The manager came outside because people in the foyer could hear her. I told him to call the police if she didn't leave. That finally broke the performance. She pointed at me and said, "You always cared more about being right than being loyal." Then she left. Lee looked at me for a second after Aubrey was gone and said, still calm, "You need a restraining order, not a second drink." I laughed harder than the moment deserved, and honestly that helped. Someone else saw the behavior for what it was without me having to explain it. The restaurant gave me an incident note. I added it to the folder. Monday morning there were flowers at my office front desk. White lilies. The florist's slip said, "The truth is you still love me." My manager saw it before I did. He looked at the note and said, "Whatever this is, document it. If she comes here again, security gets involved first." I finally talked to a lawyer that afternoon. Consultation and letter cost me $450, which annoyed me, but he was good. He read the screenshots, watched the hallway clip, looked at the restaurant note and said, "She may think this is romantic persistence. A judge will call it something else." He sent a cease and desist the next day. Aubrey responded by emailing me 14 paragraphs about truth, love, context, and how my rigid morality had destroyed something beautiful. Buried in the middle was the only sentence that mattered. I only asked for one small lie. Then came the final push. She showed up at my condo again that Sunday, pounded on the door for 6 straight minutes, and yelled through it that I was rewriting history. My downstairs neighbor Wade recorded part of it from his hallway camera and emailed it to me without even being asked. I filed for a protective order the next morning. Final update court was 4 weeks later. Aubrey came dressed like innocence on clearance. Beige sweater, low ponytail, tissues in hand. Her attorney tried the soft version first. Miscommunication, emotional distress. Bad breakup. My client only wanted privacy. My attorney came with a binder thick enough to embarrass that argument on site. He laid it out clean. Original lie. Request that I become the alibi. Repeated unwanted contact. Building access attempts. Gym appearance. Fake clinic call. Office visit. Restaurant confrontation. Flowers at work. Condo pounding incident. Third-party messages. Cease and desist ignored. Then he handed the judge the screenshot. "If anyone asks, you were with me all night." The judge read it once, then asked Aubrey, "Did you send this?" She said yes, but she had been overwhelmed and ashamed and afraid. The judge asked, "Afraid of what?" That was the whole case in one question, because the honest answer was obvious. Afraid of being found out. Instead, Aubrey started crying and talking about context. Trevor had only been closure. I had always been too black and white. I had punished her for being vulnerable. She said she never intended harm and only wanted one conversation to explain the full truth. Then my attorney introduced the email she sent after the cease and desist. The judge read the key line out loud. "I only asked for one small lie." Silence. Then the judge said, "When someone ends a relationship and tells you not to contact them, your feelings do not create a right to keep appearing in their life." Order granted. 18 months. No contact. No third-party contact. Stay 300 feet away from my condo, office, gym, and vehicle. Aubrey looked stunned, like consequences were for other people. 2 days later, Blake texted me from a new number saying I had gone nuclear. My lawyer forwarded the violation notice to Aubrey's attorney, and that was the last ripple. Since then, life has gotten boring in the healthiest possible way. Lee and I kept seeing each other, slowly. No weird tests, no emotional traps dressed up as honesty. The first time she was running late, she texted me traffic is bad and then sent a photo of actual brake lights. We both laughed because apparently I have trust jokes now. At work, I got promoted to senior project lead at the end of the quarter. My manager said I'd handled a chaotic situation with a level head and wanted that energy on the new hospital account. Wade downstairs still greets me like we survived a tiny war together. My mother calls Aubrey the truth allergy girl, which is mean but not inaccurate, and the condo feels like mine again. No staged crises, no edited timelines, no pressure to help somebody outrun facts they created. That's what I learned. People love talking about truth until truth costs them something. Then honesty becomes cruelty, boundaries become punishment, and consequences become abuse. Aubrey didn't want the truth. She wanted narrative control. She wanted me loyal enough to lie, quiet enough to help, and guilty enough to feel bad for refusing. The relationship was only stable as long as I carried part of her fiction. The night I refused, everything collapsed, not because I betrayed her, because I stopped participating. If someone asks you to lie for them, pay attention. They're not just asking for cover. They're asking you to hand over a piece of your own character so they can feel safer inside a mess they made themselves. Do it once and it gets easier the second time. Then easier the third. Before long, you're not protecting love. You're protecting chaos. I'm glad I said no the first time it really mattered. If you've ever faced something like this, or if you think I did the right thing, let me know in the comments. Subscribe, like, and share if you want more stories like this, and tell me whether you would have told the truth too.